Brazilian dancer. I want to know if you can be with joy, mine or your own. If you can dance with wildness and let the ecstasy fill you to the tips of your fingers and toes without cautioning us to be careful, to be realistic, to remember the limitations of being human. From The Invitation by Oriah Mountain Dreamer. She was a young mother, a beautiful Brazilian woman in her late 30s. She was full of life despite the cancer that was now everywhere. She was horribly emaciated and weak. As her body tried to slip away in the large room of the family-styled acute care unit, her spirit fought to live. She would just be about to drop off to sleep and quite possibly death, when she would, by sheer force of will, jolt herself awake and raise herself up and out of her hospital bed. She would proclaim passionately in her beautifully accented English, "I want to dance. I want to rollerblade with my son." Then she would grab the closest hand and say, "We have to dance." Exhausted, her slight body and determined heart would drop back into unconsciousness on her hospital bed. Her young husband and the 3 young women who were her best friends, so close they called themselves sisters, pulled me aside and said, "We don't think she gets it that she's dying. Shouldn't we tell her? We don't want her to miss the chance to say her goodbyes, and we don't think she really understands." I was a young, wet behind the ears chaplain, full of verve and vigor and anxious to serve. I took the request to heart. I was determined to do my due diligence and help guide her through her denial so she could have a good death. The family stepped out to give us privacy. I was the only one in the room the next time she awakened and bolted upright in bed. As we sat knees to knees, I gently tried to assess what she understood from the doctors about her condition. I slowly worked to nudge the conversation toward the truth. Finally, she leaned over toward me, teetering precariously since she could barely sit up without falling over. She took my hands in hers and said lucidly, "Chaplain, my denial is the only thing I have left. Please don't take that away from me." I had to swallow the lump in my own throat before I could speak. And then all I could say was, "Yes, ma'am." Over the next several hours, we took turns, her young husband, her sisters, and I, holding her up and dancing with her until moments before she died. As a trained therapist, I knew better than to assume that I knew, but it is so easy to fall into thinking that we know. I just thought I knew what she needed, but she knew. Thankfully, she had the wisdom to tell us and not let me rob her of the journey she deserved, her way. Thankfully, we could hear her.